Yeah.
All right. On that note, let's start. All right, hello and welcome to the At You2 podcast, episode number 76. I think we're at. It's been a bit of a blur here, but we're continuing to talk new album news by U2, as you may have guessed. I'm just going to fade that out right now. The new album has been released, as you're hopefully well aware by now, going on a week almost now, and the folks at U2 have been chomping at the bit to talk about this album, of course. And so this is our third in our trilogy of Songs of Experience. Hopefully, Songs of Ascent comes out almost as quickly as our trilogy has been completed. But Matt McGee has told me that he wants to do a prequel trilogy as well to make a little more money off of this thing, so that'll be coming out in the next year. So anyways, on this episode, I have got, besides my terrible jokes, I've got to my left, Aaron. Welcome back to the show, Aaron.
Hi. Hello, everybody.
Coming to us live from the third floor office in Ireland somewhere, right?
No, England. I mean
England. Sorry, I'm mixing. I called. We'll get it straight eventually, and to keep going around the clock here backwards, I guess. Mason coming to us from New York. Welcome back to the show, Mason.
Hello. I'm actually in Aaron's second floor office, so that's where we're broadcasting.
Keep the noise down there, please.
Yeah, kick the floor, hit the ceiling, and finally, Kenny from Scotland, not England, Scotland. We've got
hi, everyone.
Welcome back to the program.
Yes, definitely Scotland, not England.
I made that mistake in the pre-show, and he promptly corrected me very, very efficiently. So we are, international broadcast. So hopefully all the wires hold together as we have our discussion. We stream this live on the Good Stuff Twitch channel, as well as YouTube and Periscope. So twitch.tv/goodstuff_FM, I think is the thing. But if you follow at U2 on Twitter, twitter.com/ATU2, we'll of course tweet out whenever it goes live. And we just recorded episode, so as you're hearing this, it's hopefully been about a week maybe since the last episode, but we actually just recorded it just over 12 hours ago. So there isn't a whole lot of new stuff to report on. I'm sure stuff has actually happened in the world since we were last released an episode, but we don't have a whole lot of new stuff to talk about. So we're just going to jump right into our roundtable discussion of Songs of Experience. And maybe just to start off with, folks, where did you hear, or how did you take in the album for the first time? I don't think any of you were on anything that we've talked about this already with, so we'll just go in the same order again. Aaron, where did you first take in the album?
That's an interesting point, isn't it? Because this is probably the first album where we probably had nearly half of the tracks made available to us before the actual album release, whether it came out as a illicit download or whether we were able to buy it, whatever. But in the past, we've only ever really had one or two tracks, the normal thing, like the comeback single. In this case, we've had little bits of album drop through for a long, long time, even going back to a year ago with You're the Best Thing About Me, where the Kygo remix came out in the summer of 2016, or before it was taken down, of course, on the web. And then we have little things being played live, and we've had the other tracks coming out as the Joshua Tree tour progressed. So this has been a more unusual album, in my opinion, in that unless you're able to actually shut off from all of those tracks, which, to be fair, obviously you wouldn't be able to if you're a U2 fan, it's made it, in some respects, a little bit more difficult to get to appreciate the album until the album came out. If that makes any sense. We all have our rituals, and I think we've talked about it in the past. So normally I would just download the album and listen to it from track one right through to the end. And that's really how I still like to listen to the album. I took a little while with this one just to get into the groove, albeit, it's a very easy album to get into. It didn't take long to fall into it. But for me, it was probably 2 weeks ago when the floodgates opened and whoever got the CD managed to send it out to zillions and billions of us worldwide.
And so that's a long-winded story of getting the album out that you two did. But how about you, Aaron? What was your actual experience? We talked a little bit about like how you actually would have where and how you sort of listened to the whole thing, start to finish, for the first time. Do you have a ritual for U2 albums or bands, your favorite bands' albums, that you like have to turn off the lights and sit in the car for an hour or whatever when you first hear it?
Yeah, yeah. For me, it's very much been the case of listening to it on the highest quality audio I can get, which has usually been CD in the past, and just listen to it with headphones and just listen to it 2 or 3 times in rotation. Don't skip any tracks, even the tracks I know. Just listen to it from start to finish till you just get into the groove.
Yeah. How about you, Mason? What was your first time hearing the whole album as a whole?
So I actually did. I did give in, and I did listen to some of the leaks. I think it was it must have been the Monday or the Sunday before it actually came out.
Mason, just hang on. I'm just gonna anonymize your face so the police don't. Go ahead. Oh, anyways, sorry.
I thought he looked like that.
Boys Notorious.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
Mostly because I was having a particularly bad week, and I was like, you know what? I could just sit and wait for this album to come out, or I could try something different. So I spent that week listening to just the songs that I hadn't heard yet. I didn't listen to any of You're the Best Thing About Me, Blackout, Get Out of Your Own Way, American Soul, Little. I kind of pieced everything together, and I listened to the whole thing front to back a couple of times. And I'm also the last album. I've only been a fan long enough for 2 albums, so the only tradition I guess I had was as a complete surprise, and they didn't do that this year, so that tradition was broken. So I just
True.
I took the old songs and I left them by the wayside, and then I grabbed some of the new ones, and then once the album was out, I put it all together and had a complete listening experience.
Nice.
Experience.
How about you, Kenny? What was your first time experiencing Songs of Experience?
I think I was one of the few that refused to listen to the leaks.
I didn't either, so
Oh well, good magic. I waited till day of release, as I always tend to do with these things, because I'm quite sad and traditional, I guess, that way. And I just put on a set of headphones and just listened to it start to finish. Be about like Aaron, I was actually a bit. I was approaching it with a degree of trepidation because I'd heard a couple of tracks, obviously, that had been released, Blackout and American Soul, which got my head sort of spinning a wee bit. Wasn't quite sure what was going on. But first time was on headphones. Second time was in headphones, and actually I've done a lot in car listening to it because it's just simply, I really haven't had it off actually. It's a really easy album to get into, so it is. I'm not really kind of one of these ones for having huge traditions, other than, I used to go out and buy the record and put it on and listen to it when I got home and stuff like that. I still remember the day opening up Rattle and Hum and stuff like that, but yeah, it'd be on day of release. I certainly had 2 or 3 spins at it, and I had to think about it as an album for a while, albeit it's very accessible. But
right.
Good.
Yeah, so we'll sort of do the track by track thing like we have in the past, but try to mix it up a bit as we talk. But Aaron, you had, Stephen, some thoughts on sort of getting to this point, getting to the album, getting it out in the world, how long it's actually been in production and recording, and
it's been forever. It's been absolutely forever. If you go back, really, this whole recording has been going all the way back to the very start of Songs of Innocence, in effect, and you can see that from the liner notes. You can see the producers. You can see there's quite a lot of rollback on songs in any case. So just where they've been in the recording studio around the world, and they've obviously had a bit of a revisit to it during the end of last year. But certainly, I think the record of this album, some of the songs are going all the way back to 2011, 2012. Once the No Lie on the Horizon tour had finished, and U2 are dreadful when it comes to recording albums. They'll admit that themselves. That they find it very, very hard to write the songs, record the songs, I should say. They don't find it so hard to write them. But it's always a real difficult birth for any U2 album, and this is just the normal, isn't it? Really, we've been used to it now pretty much since the mid '80s. To be perfectly frank, this is the way they do their business. I mean, there's been very little spontaneity in U2. I think probably Zooropa was probably the last time there was a genuine spontaneity. And despite what Bono always says, it's always nonsense, isn't it? You never believe a word he says. He always says how it's going to be recorded and it'll be out next year. We had that with Songs of Innocence. So
yeah.
I think quite a few of the tracks literally will have gone back to some of those sessions back in 2013 and 2014, and they will have been recorded at the time with a specific purpose to go on this album for sure. I mean, I would imagine the main bare bones of the album were determined back several years ago. And I think you can see that just with the number of producers that are named on some of the songs here. You know, we're seeing the likes of I just took some notes down. Paul Epworth on "There Is a Light," which obviously has a connection back to "Song for Someone." So there's lots of interaction, I think, in the recording of these two albums.
Yeah, it's definitely it's been interesting to see actually the sort of chronological, if you could see a map or timeline of each song and where it was recorded, where it was mixed and re-recorded and remixed, and different producers touching it and different lyric changes and stuff. Sort of like if you're a programming nerd, a Git workflow of how it was all connected and all that kind of stuff. But I don't know if U2 takes that rigorous of notes of stuff along the way as possibly evidenced by Bono still getting basically Bono and Edge getting sole writing credit and the band getting music credit, even though potentially there's other people involved along the way. So with the opening track of "Love Is All We Have Left," sorry. What was your thoughts on sort of when you first hit play on the record and that was the track that greeted you, I guess?
Well, I mean, every U2 album normally starts off with a fairly it's usually a single first and foremost, the calling card single, as Bono normally describes. Whether it's "Beautiful Day," "Vertigo," typical examples in more recent albums. So this is a very different song, isn't it? Because it's a very quiet, very warm, very natural sounding song, quite different to anything else they've done. I can't recall U2 starting off with a ballad on anything before, so quite unique in this case.
Yeah, how about you, Mason, when you first fired it up and that was what you were greeted with?
Yeah, I thought it was musically, it's not really my thing. Just the synthesized stuff behind it and that little, fairy-like in the background. That's kind of not really my thing, but the lyrics themselves are fantastic in it. And we can go into a completely different kind of level of fanness here, but to me, I thought, oh wow, Bono referenced Harry Potter just there with the baby cries on the doorstep. That was I'm sure there's something else to it. There's something biblical, but that's where my mind went. And it's a neat little song to kind of tell you that this is something different. This is something that you need to pay a little bit more attention to, because we're not giving you comfort food right out of the top. We're going to make you think a little bit, and you're going to have to earn this album more so than just consume it, or digest rather than consume, I should say. Yeah. And it's just a neat song. It feels like it's a song that feels like dawn. It feels like that little time before the sun, like the sky starts to light up, but the sun hasn't quite risen, and it kind of has that coldness to it. And I really like it. Strong song. Yeah.
That's a good description of it. How about for you, Kenny? Does it? Because I could see the song being like one that turns people off at first. They're expecting the, like Aaron was saying, like a hard rock, some sort of like obvious U2 sounding thing, and then to be greeted with this. But what was your sort of initial gut reaction, Kenny?
So, as a song, it was different. Wasn't probably quite what I was expecting, bearing in mind what I'd heard beforehand. But what I would say to it is the more and more I've listened to it, this for me is like MLK on Unforgettable Fire, and I don't know why I kind of keep going there. There's actually a couple of songs in this album that I can kind of almost in my own head trace back to the album. Whether it's Construct or what it is, I'm not really entirely sure. But yeah, it's I think it's a great wee song. And I think, to be honest, it's just an introduction to Bono, and I think the vocals in this album are pretty amazing, and I think it's just a really good setup to what's to come. But yeah, construct-wise, it just reminds me quite bizarrely of MLK, and I'm not quite sure why it does, and I was trying to think about that when I was driving home from work this evening, because I thought I'll need to try and say something deep and meaningful. But I can't really come up with anything deep and meaningful in it. But it just, there's something resonates in there, as I say, whether it's just the song structure or what it is. I really like it. I have to say, I really like it. But as I say, I think it just kind of it shows Bono's vocals off, which I think is probably what MLK did to a degree. And I think it's even just some of the tones and the grittiness of his voice that kind of comes through, comes to the forefront in this song, and it kind of carries its way through the album, actually. So, yeah, I really
Yeah,
love
it gives it's that sort of Bono's vocal front of the mix instead of sort of buried in with everything else, and this
Very
half
much.
saying, half talking kind of Bono that I really dig. I think reminds me of a little bit of Joe Rope and stuff too. Sorry, go ahead, Aaron.
Yeah, I just wondered, does anybody think it'll be played live? Because theoretically, it shouldn't be hard to do. But what if it'll make the live shows?
Yeah, I think on the previous episode people have been theorizing that it could be the opener on if you go for one sort of emotional hit, as you know, instead of the Miracle of Joey Ramone start, but more of the, just like Mason said, like this is how we're going to introduce you to this concert, is with this kind of vibe instead of a big rock show. But what do you think, Mason or Kenny?
I mean, I think that they're going to start the shows on the E stage and then move to the I stage, just because it makes symmetrical sense. So I could definitely see like a little bit of reversal where the band comes in on the band starts at the E stage, and then Bono starts at the I and kind of sings it as he goes his way down, and then maybe you jump into American Soul or Blackout or something like that, and this would be like a little precursor. But
Right.
you never know. We'll find out soon enough.
Yeah. We're going to save the tour discussion for another episode that we'll do, I'm sure, one or two on the tour discussion as well. Getting ahead of myself here. But Lights of Home, I guess, Mason, you sort of referenced it or referenced Love's All We Have Left as kind of being in that dawn period. And then I guess Lights of Home would be the obvious kind of like.
That's the sunrise. Right there is Lights of Home. That's when you want me to just go right into it because I got a lot to say.
Yeah, go ahead.
If people remember a few podcasts ago, I think around the Blackout Letters time, maybe a little bit after, I mentioned that if I were to put money on what song is going to be my favorite, I said Lights of a Home. And I don't know if I like confirmation bias or if I actually feel that way, but this is my favorite song. This is one of my favorite songs that there's ever. I think it is just absolutely brilliant. Just the conversation that Bono has with God. It's just, I mean, the chorus from a thematic perspective, I think is one of the best they've ever had. And what is usually the most throwaway lyrics, just something that sounds good. This one sounds great and has so much meaning to it. Like, hey, now, do you know my name? Is saying, you know, I'm doing this so much to serve you. And this is kind of how you acknowledge that. Like, do you even know me? Do you even care? And then the next line goes into, well, if you don't know my name, can you at least tell me where I'm going? Like, can you tell me what is, Bono, I think, believes in the afterlife, but can you tell me what is coming up? And it's just, like I said, it's thematically rich. It sounds good. The song's got a thumping beat, and it just ties together perfectly with Songs of Innocence, where it's got the lights of home as in Cedarwood Road, but then ends on the same ending as Iris. So the three of them come together. That's why I come together perfectly. And that's partially why I think we're definitely getting Songs of Ascent, is because they're doing so much with trilogies. Like if you put Lights of Home at the top of the pyramid and then Cedarwood Road and Iris at the bottom, that's an entire statement that's on its own with full range of emotions and thoughts and philosophies and ideas, and just the idea of the lights of home. Let's just say it's not coincidence that the album, the bonus album has a mix or whatever remix to it called the St. Peter's Strings, like literally the lights of home, like afterlife home or whatever, wherever you came from or wherever you're going. I think it's amazing. I love it so much. So I'll cede the floor for my filibuster.
How about you, Kenny? Thoughts on Lights of Home?
Crikey, how do you follow what Mason's just said there? Yeah, go to Aaron instead. No,
you don't have to have a thought. You can just...
No. I guess for me, it's the musicality piece that sticks out, and I think the words resonate in there, and I haven't quite. I know a lot of our colleagues, if you want, on at U2 are kind of right into the lyrical side of things, and I tend to kind of pick up in, is that a good tune? Does it make my the hair on the back of my neck stand up? And then, all right, let me have a think about what he's probably trying to say. But I think it's just a great song. And again, as I say, I think there's a big theme for me here, but I think Bono's lyrics his vocals on this album are pretty amazing, actually. So I do, and I think that's another song that kind of really draws that out. So I do. So great tune.
Yeah.
Yeah. For me, it's by far the best track on the album, by a long, long way. It's it's brilliantly to follow the first track as well. I mean, straight into the opening line on the second song is just awesome. The lyric, and it's a co-write as well with the girl band Haim. Well, not girl band, but all female members. And I've tried listening to the track that it's referencing from Haim, and I can't see the connection at all. Obviously, Edge is very, very clever at being able to pick out a riff, because the riff that goes throughout the whole of this song between him and Adam is pretty awesome. It's one of the best U2 have ever done. No two ways about it. It's a great hook all the way through. And I think that's what captures it, keeps the attention straight away. Because if it was probably put anywhere else on the album, it wouldn't work as well, this song. So I love the way that this has been sequenced. And Edge in particular said they probably spent as much time sequencing the songs for this album as they had recording the damn thing. So it's there's a lot of clever stuff going on in there in that song. It's pretty much packed for its 5 minutes.
Yeah, and so from there we drop into "You're the Best Thing About Me," which we've heard quite a bit of, I guess, in terms of being available beforehand and things like that. And there's sort of that I don't know, "You're the Best Thing About Me" and "Get Out of Your Own Way" sort of feel like two songs that are either two sides of the same coin, or I don't know, but where they're pop friendly, radio friendly kind of songs, and kind of like you might gravitate to one or the other or both, I guess. But Aaron, you had sort of tagged "Get Out of Your Own Way" as something that was a song for you, anyways, that you were interested in. What draws you to that one?
Yeah, I think it's got a lovely laid back feel to it. The production is really strong. This is the first song. I think this is the first song that Ryan Tedder's involved with, and you can see Bono has been for many years quite desperate to get U2 back in the charts, with the singles and whatever. And it's not going to really happen. I mean, it's as he describes, the charts are broken now, so it's not going to happen. But but he still strives for that classic pop single, and it is. These two songs are pure pop. And I think Ted has done a fine job on both of the songs, whether you're the best thing and Get On Your Own Way. I've been fortunate; I've heard both of those songs live as well, because I was able to go to the MTV show in London.
Oh, right.
And they were good. They were really very impressive live, because to reproduce the sound like they did, I was pretty impressed, because they're quite poppy, and Edge is a very underrated vocalist, and he underscores Bono's vocals all the way through both of these songs, and he's got a good voice. I'd quite like to see Edge sing a lead on one of the U2 songs again.
How about you, Mason? Anything on either of these two that jumps out at you?
It was fun to hear "Get Out of Your Own Way" when I went to SNL a couple weeks ago, and I love "You're the Best Thing About Me." I just think they're two very strong songs that one of which maybe harkens back to the old days a little bit too much with "Beautiful Day" and "Get Out of Your Own Way," but that's a conversation for another time. I but that does kind of go into an overall thought I had. The track listing in this is very interesting. And those songs just feel Lights of Home, Best Thing, and Get Out of Your Own Way feel a little bit out of order almost. I don't know. I'd love to see anybody who wants to put together a re-track listing of the album and send it to us, because I would be interested to see other interpretations of it.
So those three are in the wrong order, or those should be like somewhere else completely?
No, I think Lights of Home is in a good spot, but You're the Best Thing About Me does feel like it's not in the right spot. I think that would be better off towards the back end of the album. But we'll get to some other issues I have with it in a little bit, I promise.
I think what it was on the previous episode, someone mentioned the sci-fi remix of "You're the Best Thing About Me," and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's the right one. And how that one might have fit a little bit better, just sonically, in terms of that coming out of the first two songs, sort of being more spacey, more ethereal or whatever. And so maybe just even a production choice or a mix choice on that one, that kind of they went with the radio friendly version on the album, instead of just the one that might have been best for the album and have a radio single that's sort of separate from it or whatever. But
there are definitely songs that are much more stripped down than others, and so they space the other ones out pretty well, but this one just felt a little weird. Maybe right. Get Out of Your Own Way or Lights of Home should have been more live, if you will.
Right.
So, but
yeah, they're very tightly
small
produced. American Soul is one that you saw as well at SNL, right, Mason?
Mm-hmm.
And Aaron, they didn't do that in Trafalgar though, right? They hadn't.
No. I think they've only done it once at the show you were at, Mason. Is that right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, thoughts on American Soul, Aaron, that you had?
Well, I have to be honest with you, I don't like the song. I really don't like it. I thought it would change for me when I heard the album. I like the link between Get Out on Your Own Way and American Soul with Kendrick Lamar. I have to say, I bought the Kendrick Lamar some months ago, and I don't like that album either. I'm quite a fan of hip hop, but he just doesn't do it for me. But the song's okay. I really like Volcano off Songs of Innocence, like Matt McKee, as you know.
Yeah.
And it was just a bit too similar for me when I first heard it, in terms of the refrain with the lyrics. And perhaps it'll change for me as time goes by, but I don't think the band it's appropriate for the band to play that type of song. I don't know. It would have fitted them better 10 years ago or so, but I just find them a bit too old to be trying that type of song now.
Right. How was the live performance, Mason, at SNL of it?
It was good. It sounded a lot better in the studio than it did on TV. At least from what I've heard. I actually haven't seen the episode yet. Ooh, whoopsie. But it sounded really strong. The Edge's guitar, I'm always fascinated that the choices that he makes to kind of add guitar live when there isn't any. Like in Get Out of Your Own Way, he adds those little chords. Is that it? I know nothing about guitars. So he oh, cool. Pretty much just it definitely gave the effect I think they were hoping for. It was very loud and kind of woke you up a little bit. So I was very happy with American Soul.
Nice. How about from our Scottish representative, American Soul, for you, Kenny?
Well, I was in the same camp as Aaron was, because in fact I think we both exchanged comment on Slack when it came on at first, and it probably part of this whole mystery of this album and how it kind of was born and it appeared and it was released to the public. I'm still not quite entirely sure what the plan and strategy is around it all. you know, the seek from Get Out of Your Own Way to American Soul, I actually think works really, really well, and actually makes me settle on the song a lot better. So it's grown on me. A wee bit like Aaron, the very first time I heard it, all I heard was Volcano, and I was like, oh, hang on, what's going on here? But actually, I think I've kind of blended that out of my head. The more I've kind of listened to it, it's an okay song. I think it's trying a wee bit too hard song for me. But I can imagine it could, you know, I can imagine it live. It'll be pretty cool, actually, I think. But it's more of a grower on me. But certainly the first time I heard it, I was slightly appalled. So I'm not in that territory anymore. I hasten to add, as I say, I really like the seek from Get Out of Your Own Way to American Soul. I think it's really quite classy, actually.
But we'll still be down the front, jumping up and down to it anyhow. So
Okay, we will, yeah. Crowd surfing.
Yep.
I like that tagline that they can put on their the reviews, you know, listing. They'll say Kenny slightly less appalled for this song. A little good promotional effort, but I get. Is there any element? I put this to, I think it was 2 or 3 Americans on the last episode, so they had their angle on it. But the 3 of us as non-Americans, not counting Mason obviously here, but we can say. I was wondering about the like. Are we done with U2's fascination with America? Does another country need a song or two? That's my. I'll just put Canada up there, but whatever country. New Zealand had a song. You know, can we get? I don't know, Sweden or somebody. Anyways, get.
I came here looking for Canadian politeness.
Yeah, it doesn't have to quite ring. Same quite ring. I know.
No, U2 is as tied to America as they could possibly be. Bono loves it, and you know he's one of the only ones at this point. I mean, and I think I was watching some of the Spotify behind the scenes videos early on, and there was a little 6-minute video, U2 and America or something like that, and he said basically America isn't a fully formed idea yet, and Bono's going to be, you know, biting his nails and staying up all night to watch TV to see when that eventually comes. So no, I don't think they're done. I think they all have a deep rooted obsession, love, and admiration for the country. So, and as we've seen, it is full of subject matter, and
Yeah.
the place is a circus. So there's plenty of things to pull from.
How about you, Aaron?
Which, as an American, I can say, you guys, if you say anything bad about my country, Revolutionary War all over again. We're coming for you.
I think they have. I think they have overplayed the American tribute style song a little bit too much, because it's been on the last 3 or 4 albums a song almost dedicated to the States. So yeah, I hadn't given it much thought before, but yeah, now you say it.
Sorry if I've put it in your brain now. Now you won't be able to enjoy American Soul. I'm holding out hope for a song about Saskatchewan. That's my province. So we'll see if the next album.
It's hard to rhyme, though, isn't it? It's
Yeah.
hard to rhyme. Saskatchewan.
Neil Young did "Running Back to Saskatoon," so that's the city I live in. So we've got that at least going for us. But
That's funny.
we'll see. "Summer of Love," Kenny, you had sort of tagged this one, and what are your thoughts on this track 6?
Yeah, I just think it's a magic track. I mean, it's there's a couple of songs on this album which I think stand out because of the simplicity, and this is one of them. And when I say simplicity, I mean just in terms of production. There's some serious heavy lyrics going on there. I could almost hear B.B. King, you know, sort of speaking to Bono again about, you know, way heavy lyrics, young man. But I just think the song, if you actually don't think too hard about the lyrics, it's a cracking tune, great song. It does do the hairs on the back of my neck, but it also confounds me, if that's the right terminology, how you can bring something as kind of sort of light and as tuneful and as simplistic as a song, and put the lyrics that kind of go along with it. So I know I said earlier I haven't really gone into the lyrics in great detail. It's hard not to with that song, and I don't know if again it's just because of the quietness of the rest of the band on it, and it's very much again about Bono and his vocals for me. So it is, but for me that's just one of the standout tracks on the album. So it is. And again, I think it's, maybe it's just because some of the tracks, which are the rest of the album, which is, don't get me wrong, is good, but feel a wee bit overworked. Whereas this one, I think they just got it quite right.
How about you, Mason? Any connections to Little Things? Sorry, getting ahead of myself here a little bit. Summer of Love.
I think it's fine. It's okay. I mean, my main problem with the album, which I mentioned earlier, is that, and maybe this is just dealing with my own expectations or Bono's speechifying, but it's a song labeled as a collection of letters to friends, family, audience, et cetera, and then after it gets through a chunk of those, it stops down, and we have two incredibly stripped back rock and pop songs, with this and Red Flag Day, about refugees. And don't get me wrong, that's an incredibly important topic and subject to write about, but it just feels out of place. Like Songs of Innocence, you could say, yeah, well, that has a song about domestic violence and a pedophilic priest. Fair, but those are at the end of the album after the main narrative has been told, and this one, it just sort of, they pop up in the middle and then they go away. And it's a little jarring for me. The songs themselves are fine. Summer of Love is a little unforgettable. Red Flag Day, I think, is actually pretty brilliant. It sounds like it could be on War, but I don't know, that the point in which I kind of said, oh, this section of it isn't for me, was in the Summer of Love area. But again, it's a fine song. It's better than a lot of other things I've heard this year. So, but it's just okay.
Yeah.
Just okay.
And Red Flag Day for you, it's interesting actually listening. I can't say this definitively because I haven't played along with guitar, but I think both these tracks, aside from maybe the bridge, have a chord structure that basically just repeats the whole way through, and so it doesn't have anything different in the chorus. It's piano version of Red Flag Day, and it really amazing to me how well it works as without that driving sort of edge or atom bass line and stuff like that. Yeah. Any additional thoughts on Red Flag Day as we sort of move through the album from anybody?
I think just what you just talked about, these two tracks put together, is that they're very, very simplistic rhythms that are going through the whole of the songs, with Edge's style of playing on the guitar on Summer of Love, and he's got a very early 1980s sound, very much like War, as you say, but also feels like the band The Cure, Robert Smith playing guitar. It's very much on Red Flag Day, it sounds like that. And also as well, what's quite different about these songs on this album, but particularly these two, is Adam's bass lines, which are usually eighth notes. And what I mean by eighth notes is where he just plays the same note 8 times in a row and then moves on to another chord. On this, he doesn't really play eighth notes on this album, nothing on these tracks. So they're very much in line with what Edge is playing. And there's a kind of a punky feel as well to Red Flag Day, which the song gets faster and faster and faster, as it goes along. So I think it shows a lot more technical ability from Adam that we're not really used to hearing. Same with Larry as well. He sounds like he's been on a couple of drumming lesson courses. He doesn't sound the same Larry either. The songs themselves aren't particularly experimental. They're not particularly. They're a little bit U2 paint by numbers, but the band themselves have got out of their safety zone, which is quite nice to hear.
Yeah, definitely.
I think that's a fair point, actually, because I think Larry's bought a couple of new drums, by the sounds of it. There's definitely some big, heavy drum work going on in the background, and it makes the songs really, really big. So it does, actually.
Yeah.
And more, there's more digital drums, I think, too, or sequencers or whatever at play too, which kind of leads me. I was watching I don't know what the mood was like in the room, Mason, but like the SNL performance. I forget which song I'm thinking of now, but it might have been not American Soul, the other one. But which one did they do? You're the Best Thing.
Get Out of Your Own Way.
Get Out of Your Own Way. Sorry. The shots of Larry, at least on TV, looked like he was just kind of annoyed that he wasn't allowed to play drums at the beginning. He had to wait for the robot to play drums for a bit, and then he got to join in later. Whatever. It's just a Larry face. So what can you do? I guess. But
Larry showed frustration whenever they. Good God.
It's a classic case of resting Larry face. But he could be happy, he could be sad, he could be asleep. You never know. But one last thing on Red Flag Day, I just want to say that. I'm sure this has been said already, so pardon me for repeating other people. This is the best singing Bono's had on an album in probably since No Line. I mean, at least for the notes that he gets, and that line at the end, the only word the sea can say is no, 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 and he just goes higher and higher, and just it's a huge vocal, and that's one of my favorite moments on the album, and which is kind of that one gives me the chills, and I can only imagine what that would sound like live. I think that's going to be a real kind of show-stopping kind of moment, especially with the visuals that they're going to have for that. Maybe they do I don't want to get into that. Sorry. I'm out, Mason.
Save it for the...
Save it. I'll save my theories. Okay. Sorry.
I got my hand over the mute button in case anybody starts talking about the tour. No. Speaking of the tour, though, and performing live, the Showman is track 8, and it kind of lends itself, obviously, to thinking about how it will be performed, and sort of like if it will be performed, and the kind of interplay between Bono and the audience in that one. So, like Kenny, you'd said, it is a very Bono album in terms of the themes, not that unusual for U2, but it definitely runs through almost every song here. So, but Aaron, what did you think upon hearing The Showman for the first time, or however many times you listened to it?
You have an image of what the song's going to be like, and it was nothing like I thought it was going to be like. I haven't read all about it, and the song was going to be about the relationship with the fans. And musically, it's a very jolly song, isn't it? It's a very happy, unusual U2 song in that respect. We don't hear it very often. Probably a party girl type of song. It's got that type of feel to it, to jubilation and celebration. So it was quite different in that respect. I haven't really. This is probably the one song that I haven't really spent a lot of time connecting with the lyrics. I'm still not totally convinced it's a song to the fans. It doesn't come across that way to me. But and the title, The Showman, it's going to take for a little bit of a while for me to get into this one. You can see them playing it live. You can see them playing it on the B stage acoustically. That's for sure. Yeah. Does this one have drums in it? It doesn't, does it? I can't remember that.
No, it does. It's it's deep in the background. Yeah.
Yeah.
That reminds me, actually, with just thinking of a little more better, which is kind of this weird phrasing that they added, and they decided to intentionally put in the title as well, which aggravates some grammar folks or whatever. But we were talking about, and You're the Best Thing About Me, I think, and maybe it's the eggnog influencing me, so correct me if I'm wrong. But there's the line of You're the best thing about boy. And is that a common phrase in either, I don't know, England, Ireland, Europe?
Oh yeah.
Like to at least my ears, and other folks on the podcast before, it's a very jarring kind of like it puts my wife off the song actually completely, because it's kind of like just feels like a wrong phrase, like he's missing a boy, or the boy or whatever should be there in between. But you're saying
it's an Irish phrase, isn't it, Kenny? I'd say that's pretty sounds normal to my ears.
Yeah, I would probably agree. Yeah,
I figured while we had a panel of experts on with the Irish language, we'd put it to you. So, but yeah, the little things that give you away. I jumped ahead a little bit earlier, but that's. This is a song we heard in Vancouver when they opened the Joshua Tree tour, and has been played various points. So we kind of had a frame of reference for it. But what did you think, Mason, of the album version when you finally heard that?
I actually I avoided this one actually. I kind of counted it among the old songs that I already heard. So in that initial first wave of listening to it, I skipped over it. Just like, how much different can it be? It's going to have the piano. It's going to have all that. And when I finally listened to it, it gave me my third head tingle moment of listening to the album. Just hearing it live was great, and the Edge's guitar solo is fantastic. But in little things, he starts singing, and Edge goes bow now now now, and it feels like a lightning bolt almost. Like one of my favorite things about Edge's guitar work is sometimes I feel like I can see the guitar sound. Like in Seabird Road, I imagine these, like the opening to that, I imagine these like slashing green lines of the chord or the note or whatever. And this one, it's just like this. It's just, like I said, it's just lightning hitting the earth or something like that. And maybe that has to do with the whole hurricane lyric or something. But that song, I wasn't prepared for it. I really wasn't. And it knocked me on my butt. It's fantastic. And I would say it's the best as an overall song. I think it's the best song they've written since Moment of Surrender. There's other songs I like more, like Cedarwood Road, but for me, that it just has so many layers and so many things going on, and it's beautiful. It really is, and I hope we get to hear a version of closer to that than the Joshua Tree on the next tour, because that's a showstopper. It really is.
Mm. The new Spotify song, there's another version of it that's on our website, and I took my chance and had listened to that today, and it is the arrangement for that is more similar to what we would have heard on the Joshua Tree tour with the piano, because the piano is not to the forefront at all, is it? Of course, no, on the album at all. It's a different arrangement. Well, rather, I should say, what we heard live is a different arrangement to what they did in the studio. But it's a fine song, and what you just said there, Mason, about Moment of Surrender. It is that type of song, isn't it? It's got that feel about it, and it's probably the longest song on the album, I guess, as well. Certainly, if it isn't, it certainly feels like it is. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So it's again another classic U2 song that only U2 can write. No other band in the world can do it.
Yeah, it's a very U2 song, and it is. I wonder if something with it. It's certainly a good song in its own right, but if it has a little bit to do with having sort of lowered expectations, at least for me, from having heard it live, thinking, okay, that didn't feel as big and as good as it could be, or whatever, and then hearing the album version, it was like, oh yeah, that's what it needs to be. And
I've said this before, but Little Things was presented from an overall like concert setting. It was presented terribly on Joshua Tree. Like, I don't think you get the feeling of it unless you're 50 feet from them at either side. And I kind of understand why some people would leave during that song, because it just felt out of place. But now that we have an album to contextualize it, and then don't mute me, Chris, but a tour that will hopefully contextualize it and give it some visual flair, I think it's going to settle in much nicer than it did on Joshua Tree.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, I've got a visitor. Just a second. Okay, thanks. Can you shut the door? Too short to appear on camera, so. Okay, can you shut the door? Come here. There we go.
Hey.
Hello.
What's your favorite song on the U2 album? You don't know.
Oh, I've gone shy.
Okay, can you go shut the door? Keep shutting all the way. All the way. Her actually, you're the best thing about me was her favorite song. Oh. But yeah, she's clammed up. I don't think she knows the titles. They just think it's YouTube, not U2. So they get confused.
Well, right. I guess they're not getting dinner tonight. That's just that's final.
No hockey for them. Okay, where are we?
No, I said it's a punishment, Chris. It's a punishment.
Right.
I love hockey.
Landlady. Let's keep moving. I don't know if now I keep hearing voices and noises behind me. I think somebody's going to jump out and get me, but let's keep moving. Landlady is track 10. Kenny, why don't you lead us off on this one?
Yeah. Again, it's one of the stripped back songs, really, isn't it? I think Bono's vocals are great on it. I think the sentiment behind it is, just some really clever lyrics in there. I think I don't really know what else to say about it. I love it. Magic. Sorry, that was very deep and meaningful, but there you go.
Again, it's another lovely song, isn't it? Where there's the melody and the lyrics are just weaving a lovely story all the way through. This is the one actually that pretty much harks back to a kind of a Songs of Innocence theme, isn't it? Because most of the other songs, the lyrics are about now, here and now, or the most recent future. This one is going back to the early days. It could almost actually sat on Songs of Innocence quite well, thematically for sure. There was a lot of I noticed on Twitter a lot of people were a little bit unsure about landlady, the phrase, and using that in the context of his wife, and was it meant to be almost derogatory, or was it meant to be a term of endearment? And again, I suppose it depends which side of the continent you're on, but for us over this side, it's certainly a term of endearment in the context of the song. So it's a nice tribute to Ali from the band, effectively, not just from Bono.
Yeah, I think I was asking that too about, because it does feel a bit like the old lady who takes your rent kind of feeling or whatever.
Yeah,
yeah.
But obviously in context, I mean, I'm not worried that Ali doesn't understand or get where he's coming from on it. It just was a title. The title of it just put me off the song, regardless of what the song was going to sound like. But
the title isn't great, is it?
Yeah, but having heard it and knowing the story and all that kind of stuff, I won't repeat myself again. But it's grown on me a lot today, or this far. So, Mason, do you have a comment on?
Yeah, I got it. It's my least favorite song on the album, and I think it's gonna stay there. I just think it's musically uninspired and lyrically heavy-handed. I don't know. It's too wordy for my liking. And the one line I want to point out as being especially annoying was the road, no road without a turn, and if there was, the road would be too long.
Doesn't do it for you.
What? I don't know what lyric generator Bono used, but he needs to find a new one. I don't know. Like I said, it's just a little bit wordy, and I get it, but I feel like you're paving over a perfectly fine driveway that "You're the Best Thing About Me," did basically, and it feels like a hat on a hat almost, and it's and it's just. I listen to this band mostly for the musicality and just the instrumentation and how they put together melodies and chord progressions or whatever, and just the mood they create with a song. And this one, it just sort of happens, and I say, okay, that's nice, but I'm gonna move on here. But it'd be unfair for me to say that the ending, the every magic potion to bring me back to you, all that was lovely, but the song that came before it was just. But it does have another great Bono high note, so it has that going for it. But overall, I put a ranking together of songs, and it started out in the middle of the pack, and then when I redid a ranking based on after a few more listens, it quickly sunk to the bottom. So it's not one I see myself revisiting. But I'm glad you guys enjoy it.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Is it's just the interesting part of, obviously, never mind the millions of U2 fans out there, but just even within our staff, how certain songs really resonate with one group and other songs don't. And I know in the last episode, Sherry really loved this song and couldn't get enough of how beautiful a song it was for Ali or whatever from Bono and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I agree. That's just part of music and art and all that kind of stuff.
And of course, we may have different versions. We're guys, we're blokes.
Right.
Yeah, that's true.
If you're a lady, you'll have a different perspective of this, won't you?
Right.
Yeah, Bono's singing to me, it's... No, I get that. And life experience goes with it, too. So I'll give the benefit. I'm sure it's a great song, but I haven't found that yet.
For us oldies, it's good.
Yeah, maybe it is the sentimental part of it, I guess, right? Like, which, again, the state that Bono apparently was in and writing it and stuff like that, so...
I actually just love the fact that we're, people come at it from different perspectives, yeah. And I think actually... To be honest, I think that's what makes them quite a powerful band. It'd be pretty boring if everybody agreed anyway. But actually, probably my only anecdote as well in relation to this, and I think Mason mentioned this earlier on, or somebody else did, just in terms of running order. It's the one album that confuses me because it doesn't necessarily. It does feel like bits and pieces of albums put together, or it's either that I just don't understand the running order. And maybe I'm not supposed to understand it, and I'm actually okay, and I'm quite cool with that. So maybe that's what brings out the kind of whole different aspects of it as an album overall. But I just like the fact I love listening to the fact that just listening to what other people think about other songs, because it makes me think about them in a different way as well. I love that.
Yeah,
it's good.
Yeah.
Do you have your hand up, Mason? For
yeah, if I may. I just every album and every concert seems to have a Heart of Darkness, and that to me is Little Things and a song we're going to talk about. I'm assuming Blackout. You have that. I think that's your Heart of Darkness, and then the last two songs are kind of the are bringing you back up to leave on a high note and make you feel good. And then you just stick Landlady right in the middle. It seems a little counterproductive to me. Just go, if you're going to go, say this is the point of no return, and this is our all is lost moment, then go for the all is lost moment. Don't try to sprinkle in a little feel good song in there. Just move that to the front. And musically, it's much more simple than Little Things or Blackout. So that was my last real big problem with the running order. Just Landlady was kind of just shoved it in there. I felt like it needed that point in the album needed to breathe a little bit more.
Yeah, it's you can picture them having the most difficulty figuring out where to slot Landlady, given the other themes that are running along here, and the fact that it's the type of song it is, and production wise what it sounds like and things, it doesn't fit. Musically maybe over here, but lyrically it would have, and vice versa. So, but you referenced the Blackouts. Let's jump to the Blackouts. And Aaron, this feels like the other side of American Soul for me, where it's like a big heavy rock song. Matt, I know, has referred to this sort of as the Vertigo sound or whatever from Edge.
Yeah.
That kind of effect and like single sounding song. But how does it sit with you, Aaron?
Yeah, I have to say, I loved the song initially, then I started to dislike it. Now I'm back into loving it again. And the only thing I don't like about the song is I find the lyrics a bit weak. I don't the rhyming couplets as well with Bono, with Ned and all those type of phrases that he comes out with. They sound a bit naff, but it's not the best lyrics on this one. But it's a real song that you want to start jumping up and down when you hear it. The album needs a song like that, and this is that song. It serves that purpose. It's going to be fantastic live. I definitely want to be standing Adam's side of stage when it's being played live, because he's full blown out James Brown backing band on this one, isn't he?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this is definitely an Adam revival tune.
Yeah,
for sure.
It's a very strong song, and I agree with Mason. It's one of the the Heart of Darkness songs that fit on every YouTube album. It'll go down well live. This.
How is it? How did it compare to, like, we heard the sort of not single, but a video release or whatever it was on Facebook originally, and that had like sort of the crowd and the energy of that.
Yeah.
And how did it compare with when you heard the album?
I mean that was a terrible audio anyhow, wasn't it? Because it was a Facebook Live. It was in mono. It was a real low bandwidth version. So hearing the new version, the album version, in particular, about all of it's meant to be a live version, the Facebook version, it's obviously been dubbed a bit as well. There's been crowd noise added in or whatever.
Yeah.
So it's all a bit murky in the mix. But obviously, when you hear the album version, it's so completely different. And there's a hell of a lot going on in this song in the background. Again, I think Jackknife Lee has done a fine job on this song, as he's done with a few of the others. I mean, he's also responsible for American Soul, You're the Best Thing, Lights of Home. I think all of the songs that he's worked on are pretty damn good, to be perfectly frank. From a production perspective, they're fairly complex songs. I think he's done a very good role.
Mm-hmm. All right, so let's keep moving. Love is Bigger Than Anything Else Way. I know I said we were going to not do the album track by track, but then you just kind of fall into wanting to go through every track because everybody has thoughts on each track. So that's what we'll do. So hopefully, if you don't like that, then you've probably turned it off by now and you're waiting for the next episode. So, but Mason, what I'm guessing this is one of the other songs that gives you the sort of Where the Streets Have No Name tingles on the back of your neck kind of songs. But
no, mine are at the top of my head, the very top. It's right under all the hair that I have to maintain. But this is, I think, every U2 song has its kind of the songs of scale, like I'll just use Songs of Innocence as an example. That's Cedarwood Road to me is like your big just statement song, and then there's always one song that's the magic song. I don't know, and for Songs of Innocence, I think that's Invisible, and it's a type between Invisible and Every Breaking Wave. And for this album, it's Love is Bigger Than Anything Else Way. It's so ethereal and beautiful, and the lyrics are it's as wordy, if not wordier, than Landlady, but the melody and the way the song is composed, it feels like a poem almost, and it reads like like a song of experience from William Blake or something like that. And there's just so many little moments, like when I think I don't know what the terminology is, but I'll call it the bridge. You'll know what I'm talking about. It says this beginning of if the moon like caught you crying on Kalini Bay. Just the way that's sung by Bono and Edge and whoever else, and then the way that bridge, I guess, ends with when you think you've done, you've just begun, and it just goes, the notes go up, and it goes into Edge, like Bono says, descending from the heavens like a boys' choir. And this song it's just stunning. And again, it's another Bono high note. His "Oh" is if I could hear myself when I say is ethereal. Like I said, it's an amazing song, and I've since learned that we're going to hear it on the BBC special coming up in just a few days, I think, and I'm so looking forward to hearing that.
With the strings,
I don't know where in the live set they're going to put it, but it's got to have a spot, because that's a lights up, everybody's crying kind of song, I think, or at least I am. I'll cry enough for everybody. So.
Yeah. How about you, Kenny? What are your thoughts with Love Is Bigger?
I'm probably not quite in the same place as Mason on this one.
Not many people are, so don't feel bad about it. I'm on a crazy island all by myself.
It's quite a big operatic kind of song, isn't it? Or whether it's operatic or theatrical, I'm not quite sure. And I referenced Larry's drums, and there's definitely, how he plays the drums. So actually, Aaron, you were talking about Adam playing. I think Larry does play differently on this album. Actually, Edge does as well, to be honest. But that's the kind of bit that kind of, I guess, sticks out for me. I don't not like it. I'm not quite blown away by it. I'm not quite sure what it would sound like live, actually. And it's an interesting thought. It probably feels quite produced to me. So it does. Maybe just a wee bit too overproduced. And I don't know, was it Matt? I heard Matt saying something about the kazoo at the beginning. And that
you shouldn't have said that.
That's
That
like a
ruins
bit
it
of
for
an earworm. It's kind of stuck with me,
Yeah.
so it has.
Curtis, you Sol O Enigma, or whatever his name is. It got that into people's heads. That's a disservice to the kazoo, by the way. That's a hell of an instrument.
Yeah, I know. I apologize to all kazoos out there.
It is funny because it feels like one of those songs that, to my ears anyways, and this is again, just my bias, my preferences, whatever, but it feels like a song that if you're a U2 fan, of course you would love that song, but it's refreshing again just to hear a different perspective on it and how it could be like just whatever. I know you're not saying it's like the worst song ever or whatever, but just that there's a maybe overproduced and there's maybe more of a gem in there that they kind of shined up too much, I guess. So, but which brings us to 13, 13th track. 13, There Is a Light. So looping all the way back to the beginning. But Aaron, what are your thoughts on 13?
Yeah, it sounds a little strange actually sometimes to listen to this song. Even now I've really got into the album, because not the fact that obviously it's very, very similar to song for someone, but also I don't think necessarily, it almost feels like it's a bonus track on this album, but it's not. I sometimes think whether Love Is Bigger Than Anything This Way should have been the final song on the album. And then this comes in, it still fits, but equally it doesn't fit in my opinion. It's a bit Marmite-y for me. I guess you know what Marmite is, just to make sure. You either love it or you hate it. And
yeah, it's a type of soda, right? It's like Marmite.
No. It's what is it?
No, I'm familiar with it. I'm just.
Oh, you are okay. You're already kidding.
He's just messing with you.
Yeah. As I say, the song. The song, I don't think again has been written for this album. I think this song probably existed in format for the Songs of Innocence album, and you can tell that in some respects because there's a reference in the co-production for Paul Epworth. So this song, in its format, has existed for a long time. In the same way that probably all the way back to those sessions that Chris Thomas did on How to Dismantle an Atomic Bomb. Native Son became Vertigo. So I think it has that type of parallel relationship. It just seems a little odd on this album. I don't know. I mean, it's a very nice song. It's a very enjoyable song, but it just seems a little bit out of place somehow, both sequentially and just the fact that it's on the album.
How about for you, Mason? Does it? Do these ring true?
Yeah, pretty much. Like on that ranking that I mentioned, this was actually at the bottom of my December 1st, 2017, or December 2nd, 2017 initial gut reaction, and it's slowly creeping up. And I think, like I've said, I love instrumentation. I personally don't like that it was pushed so far into the background, but the lyrics especially are beautiful, and the melody's really strong. And I do like the callbacks to "Song for Someone," and it's a very interesting song to close out an album because I mean the last one was "The Troubles," and which is a very strange song to end an album on. But the album comes in almost at daybreak, and it feels like this one ends, and then the album ends at midnight almost, or at dusk, and it feels right to me. It's much more. It creates a really, really strong mood, and overall is a very good song, and one that I think I will like a lot more if I hear live. So with the piano and drums and bass balanced with the vocals.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if they do that and still, like with Volcano and stuff, if they still do a segue or a medley of the two songs, or if they just include the bridge of it or whatever, and how they sort of incorporate this now multiple callbacks and recycling of bridges or choruses or whatever in new songs, and how people sort of resonate with that or don't if they aren't familiar enough with the song. It doesn't even they don't catch that callback or whatever. But it does create an interesting sort of production challenge, I guess, as they... Obviously, we're all anxious to talk about the tour, so we'll just keep moving. And then the two bonus tracks, three bonus tracks on the deluxe edition. Book of Your Heart. Aaron, where do you sit on Book of Your Heart? Is it a...
I think it's one of the best songs they've ever recorded. Again, I can't understand. It's just one single bonus track on the deluxe version. I feel sorry for anybody who has got the deluxe version because they're missing out an absolute cracker of a song. It's a very weird song, isn't it, as well? It probably may not fit so easily on the album to be sequenced. I think if it did fit on the album, something would have to give way. Perhaps this is a Heart of Darkness song, isn't it? Really?
Absolutely.
Perhaps it could have took the place of Landlady. Who knows? But Mason agrees. Yeah, I mean it's wonderful. It's this one is produced by Andy Barlow, and again, like the first song on the album where he produced, it's a very electronic sound, and if you're familiar with Barlow's work on Lamb, that's his vibe. That's what he does, and to say it would be interesting if they record with him again in the future because he would take them into a different direction. Out of their comfort zone, out of this paint by numbers style that you two are really very much in since pop even. I think that he would really challenge them to write and record in a different way. I hope they work with him more in the future.
Yeah, it's interesting if they'll... Who knows what we'll have in the future, obviously, but it feels like... as this album even sort of highlights, like time is running out in a sense, and all those kinds of themes that come through. And so how much more experimentation we'll get from the band as they hope to sort of, set their mark, obviously. But yeah, it's an interesting song. I know it seems like there's a lot of like love-hate for this one. What was the phrase you used? A marmite of a song?
Marmite song, yeah.
How about you, Kenny? Where does Book of Your Heart sit with you?
I'm with Aaron. I think this is a gem. It's kind of one. I do scratch my head and wonder. Well, I suppose I can understand why it doesn't sit on the main running order, but I think it's a cracking tune. I don't know why Disappearing Acts springs into my head whenever I think about it. Quite bizarrely, maybe it's just a title, but I always keep thinking of Simple Minds' song "Book of Brilliant Things."
Yeah.
And I don't know why. As I say, maybe it's just something I associate with my youth. But I think it's, again, I've mentioned it probably too many times about how I think Bono sings on this album, and it's another great song that brings out how well he is vocally at the moment for me on that album. Great, love it.
Yeah, Mason, any additional thoughts for Book of Your Heart? Or
Yeah, it's to me it sounds like it could be a, a a song from pop that they realized they had and threw onto this album. Like it's shocking to me. It was shocking to me how much it sounded like it belonged there. It's like a B-side to "Do You Feel Loved" or something like that. I think I'm not as wild about it as you guys are, but I think it's a very good song. It's definitely one that's going to grow on me, and the vocals, I think, just how they're presented are some of the most fascinating, because he starts the song off in such like a hush tone, like a whisper, and then once he gets to like the second or third repetition of the chorus, it just he's singing like he's singing for his life, just with so much passion and urgency. And it's shocking to hear, and I completely agree with what I think Kenny said about, or no, it was Aaron. Sorry, about this could absolutely replace it could replace Landlady on the album. Like if you do Book of Your Heart, Little Things, and The Blackout, that's your Heart of Darkness. That's your 3-act of growing intensity and just and upped production value and all that stuff. That would have been fantastic, but alas, we can't always get what we want. So
I think there is
very
a
good
general
song.
consensus about this song, though, that it should be in the main structure of the album. And I get slightly annoyed as well that you've got Ordinary Love, which I don't understand why it's on the deluxe version. It makes no sense. I know it's a nice song and everything, but it doesn't even fit sequentially. It doesn't even make sense. And then putting this in as a kind of just like a leftover, it's shameful, actually. They really should have put this in the main album. No two ways about it.
But we also got spoiled with the Songs of Innocence Deluxe, because there was like
Absolutely.
4 new songs and acoustic
Yeah.
sessions. So, but I would like to
Crystal
see those
Ball
come
and all
back.
those songs. Lucifer Hand,
Oh.
yeah. Super songs.
yeah,
Great songs.
I hope and wonder maybe that they would do a Songs of Experience Plus or whatever they call it edition here, but maybe not, because they don't feel like they have to sell an album this time around, because they actually did sell the album officially. But
Sounds pretty well.
So yeah, it hit number 1 in Billboard. So final song that we'll talk about anyways is Lights of Home. We'll sort of skip over Ordinary Love just because like it is a bit of a repeat of a song that's been around for a while. But Lights of Home, the St. Peter string version that we referenced at the beginning. Mason, I know you liked the original. You presumably like the strings version as much or more.
Yeah, I do. Like I said, it's called the St. Peter strings version for a reason. I was coming into it, I was assuming that the strings would play more of a part, and it would maybe without Edge, just Bono, Larry, and the strings doing the whole song. But it's a heck of a start, and it's a side of U2 that we haven't really seen before, of them working with an orchestra, and that song's just an example of how much more epic some of these songs, not just on Songs of Experience, but just overall, how much more epic they could sound if they had string accompaniment. Because the little thing about me is that the violin, cello, those are some of my favorite. That's some of my favorite music to listen to, and just on my own. And the song it's taken to another level with the St. Peter strings version, and I adore it. I think it's great.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, this is still undoubtedly the best song on the album. Lights of Home is the strongest song by a long, long way, and it'll be, I think, the song that will be played a lot more again in future years, hopefully. The thing about this song as well is that if you think about the first on the album, the track 2 on the album, it's very got almost like a Coldplay feel to it. I don't know if you pick up on that vibe. And this version is, my friend Alan Scott in Liverpool, he's a big Radiohead fan. And in the way that the first version of the main album is very much like Coldplay. This is, in his opinion, and he's right, I think, this is like a Radiohead version. And it's almost like, should be not called St. Peter's String version, should be like Burn the Witch version.
Yeah.
This is the Radiohead first track. And I think he's got it spot on there. It's unusual that you get a remix song, well, not a remix, but a different version that's as good as the album version. And I don't have any favourites between the two. I think they're like a yin and yang at the moment for me. I love the pair of them.
Yeah, I would argue. I think the strings version could. If I wish they almost would have had the guts to put it as the version that's on the album. Just, I think there's still like I don't know, that sort of 80s 90s band mentality of like you don't actually use strings or saxophones or non-rock instruments on the albums or something like that. I don't know. They've obviously used other instruments. They use the kazoo maybe, but I think
they used it on Kazoo Station, if I remember right.
Oh
boy.
I'll get my coat.
Yeah. Go to your room, Aaron. I'm sure it's a couple floors down.
But anyways, I think it could be, yeah. It is the St. Peter's Strings version is my favorite song on the album, I think, right now. And it sounds awesome when you turn it up really loud in the car or in headphones or just on the crappy computer speakers or whatever. It's
you can feel it's like Led Zeppelin Kashmir type of song. It's that powerful when they put the strings behind it. It's absolutely superb.
Yeah. All right. Well, in sort of wrapping up this discussion and even potentially I'm not saying we'll never talk about the album again on the At YouTube podcast or the site. Obviously, plenty of stuff still to come. But if you had to, your Desert Island song from this album that you absolutely want to listen to forever and ever and again, and then maybe the one song you can leave behind. In brief, I guess. We'll go around the same sort of circle here. Give Kenny the most chance to figure it out. But Aaron, what's the one song you want to take and one song you want to leave?
My Distant Island one has got to be Lights of Home, and I'm happy to leave American Soul back to where it belongs.
How about you, Mason?
I agree. Lights of Home, St. Peter's String version, however, and Landlady. Yeah.
No surprise there. How about you, Kenny? What about you? What's your top and bottom of the album?
I think I would take with me The Little Things, and I would leave behind The Showman.
Yeah. Interesting. Good choices. Okay. I've said more than enough words about this album at this point, so I'll take Lights of Home, the St. Peter's String version for sure, and I could probably leave Book of Your Heart if we count that as part of the album, but that's just me. Maybe you have different opinions. If you want to send comments, thoughts, suggestions, rants, whatever, to the podcast, you can use hashtag #AskAtU2. We collect those. We haven't had, obviously, since we recorded yesterday. I haven't had a whole bunch of new stuff since then that's come in, but feel free to send in your thoughts on the album, your favorites, the song you can leave behind, things you disagree with, things you love about what we said on the podcast as part of the trilogy of Songs of Experience that we've done. And we'll be back with one more episode this year for a sort of holiday wrap-up party of some sort, talking through 2017, the year that it was with U2 and at U2, the site, and changes and highlights and all that kind of stuff. And so watch for that. I guess that'll be episode 77 if I got my numbering correctly. We do try and stream it live. Today, I apologize. There's a couple of hiccups again for some reason in the stream. The audio podcast version stays rock solid, so if nothing else, you can listen to that if the video versions aren't performing well for you. But over on Twitch, twitch.tv/goodstuff_FM. There's a YouTube channel. And then be sure to follow the Twitter account, twitter.com/ATU2, facebook.com/ATU2com, and instagram.com/ATU2com is where you can find us all. And gents, where can folks find you on the internet if they so desire? We'll start with Aaron.
Yep, catch me on Twitter on @Ivanobe, IVANOBE.
And Mason, how about you?
So I don't tweet much, so in lieu of that, I'm going to offer something else.
Facts.
If you want my unabashed movie opinions, head to Letterboxd LETTERBOXD.com/Mason Merritt. That's Merritt with an E, 2 R's, and 2 T's. I'm seeing Star Wars tonight, so it's going to be a lot of caps and exclamation points. Actually, well, I would already have seen Star Wars by the time this goes up, so check there anyways. But
No spoilers. And Kenny, how about you?
no.
You can catch me on Twitter at Sing No More, all the one word. And please come and visit the forum. We've reopened it again. So
Right,
we
yeah.
had a wee sabbatical. So come by and say hello. That would be great to see you all there.
Yes, that's at youtube.com/forums, is it? Or is it forums? I forget which way the URL goes.
Forum, yeah, I think it's forum. Yeah, that sounds right. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, at youtube.com, and then you'll find the link, obviously. So, and that's it. I'm at Chris on Twitter, and thank you for watching. Thank you for listening wherever you are in the world. Have a great day. Goodbye. And I forgot to cue up the music, so we'll just go with that. Oh, it got really quiet because it was... All right.
Right.
Thank you, gents.
Well,
Star Wars!
Yeah, no problem. You'll enjoy it, Mason. It's good.
Oh, I can't wait. Only a couple more hours.
Do you have the Star Wars Christmas album from the 70s?
No, I don't.
Oh, you
No,
should
I don't.
check that out.
I'm not a big Star Wars fan. I just I think the movies are great. Not the biggest, I should say.
Right.
Awesome.
Listen, I've got to go. I've got to go take my dog for a walk. All right. I'll see you.
See you guys, and
Take care.
Good as
Speak to you
well.
before Christmas.
It was
Have a
good speaking to you
everybody.
all.
Yeah.
Yeah,
All right,
absolutely.
take care.
Christmas.
Cheers, guys.